feel better when my kids are happy. I want my kids to be happy because then I feel good about myself. That's not right. Like that's not what children are for. They're not for that. You need to know who you are in your identity as a daughter and son of God and in your spousal relationship, because that's how you're receiving God's love, through your spouse. And from that place, you love your children freely. You love your children and you serve your children, not for what your kids are going to give to you, but because this is the calling that you have. This is the responsibility, the stewardship that God has given you. And the only way you can work on your marriage is if you dedicate time to it. You have to take time, and time, again, without the kids. Like, you just need to get away without them. And we've had lots and lots of witnesses of couples who maybe our getaway was the first time they were alone together for an extended period of time without their children. And it's absolutely refreshing.
Welcome back to Smuggling Hope, the podcast designed to bring Catholic counsel to the community. Here we invite you into therapeutic conversations about faith, family, marriage, mental health, and the cultural concerns that we're all trying to navigate. Because real change in the world starts with changing ourselves. So let's smuggle a little bit more hope into our lives today. Now, before we dive in, I want to ask you a favor. If today's conversation moves you, encourages you, or gives you something to think about, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And if you feel inclined, leave us a 5-star review. And that's one simple way that you can support this mission of smuggling hope into a world that's desperate for it. And also, a big thank you to those of you who already support the podcast, whether by sharing it with friends, through your prayers, or by using our free online family and marriage resources at heartsrenewed.org. You're all part of this mission, and I'm grateful to you for coming back here each week. Now let's thank the amazing sponsors who help make this show possible. First up, it's heartsrenewed.org. And if you're looking to transform your marriage and and build a remarkable relationship, Hearts Renewed offers a powerful at-home program designed to help couples deepen their connection, communication, and love. Right now, you can try that program for $1 for the first week. Just use the code RENEW1 at checkout. And don't forget our free at-home mini healing retreat for marriages. Just go to heartsrenewed.org or click the link down in the show notes. Next, it's Tan Books. For over 50 years, Tan Books has been on a mission to help people become saints. They offer over 1,000 traditional Catholic titles on theology, scripture, church history, the lives of the saints, and much more. I personally love their books, and they've been an anchor in my own spiritual life. And right now, Smuggling Hope listeners get 15% off at tanbooks.com when they use the code HeartsRenewed15 at checkout. Click the link in the show notes and start exploring the treasures of our Catholic faith. Tan Books, helping ordinary people become saints. Next, it's Mezzanine Creative Co. And do you have a vision you're ready to bring to life? Mezzanine Creative specializes in branding, design, and storytelling that connects you with your audience in a powerful way. So whether you need a rebrand, a new website, or a creative strategy, Mezzanine Creative will craft something extraordinary for you. Check them out at mezzanine.co. Lastly, it's the Chesterton Academy of Buffalo, where education isn't just about academics, it's about forming the whole person in truth, goodness, and beauty. And at Chesterton Academy of Buffalo, they provide a classical college preparatory education rooted in faith and virtue. And whether you're looking to enroll your child, support the mission, or start a Chesterton Academy in your area, visit cabuffalo.org. They've got a beautiful new website, so check it out today. Today, I'm honored to be joined by two incredible guests whose lives are a living testament to the truth that love grows not in perfection, but in perseverance. Mike and Alicia Hernon, the founders of the Messy Family Project, a ministry that has inspired thousands of Catholic parents around the world. So what began as a humble podcast in 2015, born from their own desire to navigate parenting with purpose and faith, has now grown into one of the most trusted and relatable resources for Catholic families today. With 10 children, a growing number of grandchildren, and decades of marriage under their belt, Mike and Alicia have walked the road many of us are just beginning. Their passion is simple but powerful: to give families hope, not because they've found a flawless formula, but because they've embraced the beautiful mess of marriage and parenting as a sacred calling. Through honest conversations, practical tools, and a whole lot of grace, they've created a movement that helps moms and dads reconnect with each other, embrace their unique vocation, and rediscover the joy in their homes, no matter how loud, chaotic, or imperfect those homes may be. So whether you're a parent in the trenches or a couple looking to reignite your mission, or someone who just needs to know that you're not alone, this episode's for you. So let's dive in with Mike and Alicia from the Messy Family Project. So thank you to both of you guys for joining me today on this episode of Smuggling Hope. And you guys have, 10 kids, right?
Yes.
10 kids.
At least last count.
You lost last count, huh? Okay. And, and again, I think you guys are like the top podcast or one of the top podcasts for family life, right?
Hope so. You never,
Well,
I don't know. It goes up and down, it's like,
I used to pay attention to that, and then I said it just got too distracting.
Yeah.
We love what we're doing,
Me
and if it's
too.
bearing fruit, awesome.
Yeah.
But we'll keep going, even if it's just us listening. We're okay.
It's
We
just
like
us.
talking to each other, but yeah, I think we are in the top rankings for marriage and family parenting stuff.
Well, I think that's awesome, though. I think that,
Me too.
I think it's a wonderful thing to share all of the wisdom that you guys have with the world, that in many ways, a lot of the stuff that you guys have hard won through your marriage life and through your parenting, it kind of comes across in your episodes. So,
Well, I mean, I'm looking out on the parents that I know and the young families that are in our parish and our community and our own children. I mean, our older 4 children are all married, and I just feel like parents need so much encouragement. They just
Mhm.
need encouragement, and they need to know how important the reality of how important the chaos and the nutsiness in their home. I was like, you don't think it's important when you're in it. You really don't. But now, like where we are looking back on our kids' childhood and the parents around us, I'm like, they have no idea how important it is. It is so, so important. And we just want to love those parents. That's what we want to do. We just want to love them, all those husbands and wives and moms and dads.
That people get that. I mean, it's something that comes across in all of your work, and I think that it takes a special like marital bond to be able to be like kind of transparent with people too, because people then get to know you and they feel like that you like somehow you're able to convey that people matter even if you don't meet them. Which I think.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to people like, oh, we listen to this show, we listen to these people, and I'm like, well, do you know them? And they're like, no, but I feel like I know them. I feel like
Oh gosh.
We have met many people and we're like, you know us, but we're just getting to know you. So let us catch up.
yeah, that's right. Well, which I think, but that's powerful. That takes a lot. I think it takes a lot of like grace, and it's a special gift to share with people. So thank you for continuing that. One of the things I love to do, like when I have people like come on, is like I love to study like the positive anomalies in the world, right? Or the people that are doing something that's working. And like you said, marriage and family life is difficult. People need encouragement, and they really don't get it from the world. The world, I think, continues to promote victimhood. The world continues to make,
Yes.
I think, a business out of brokenness with people.
So
For you
true.
guys, like, what do you think? Like, one of the foundational things, or many of the foundational things of a strong family, just a strong family in general.
Yeah. So when we have a daughter, so Alicia said we have 4 married. We have 3 with the 4th getting married at the end of this month.
By the time this podcast comes out, we'll be right in the midst of wedding week.
and what she and her fiance asked us, what's the best marriage prep? And they were kind of expecting a marriage program or something like that, which we did talk to them about. But the first thing that came to mind was getting your heart right, getting the junk in your life, working on yourself so that you can make yourself more of a gift to your spouse. And whether that's through counseling, whether that's through, seeing better habits and prayer and healing and wholeness, right?
Yeah.
Because our lives are meant to be a gift. And that's when you really receive. I mean, it truly is, it's in the giving that you do receive. God got that right. He knew what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
And I have found that the greatest challenge and obstacle to being a great parent, to being a great spouse, is me. And that's my, when I can receive God's healing, when I can receive and be filled up and work through all the stuff in my life, I make myself more available, more present, more able to love my spouse. That's the number one thing.
And I think that's why you keep learning. That's why the learning in family life never ends, right? And as you know, Dan, like you're the marriage guy, and like, like the learning in marriage never ends. Why? Because we are always going to be growing in holiness. There's always more to learn. God is so gentle with us. Our Lord is so gentle. He doesn't give us everything all at once. He doesn't we don't start out marriage and family life and he's like, okay, well, this is how far you have to go. No, he just shows us little by little and gives us those kind of like little wins, and he's just a very, very gentle teacher. But we also have to recognize that you never can stop. There's always more to learn. You can always learn more about your spouse, learn more about yourself, more about your marriage. And what I see in family life where people start going wrong is when they think, I know them. I know what they're going to do. even with your kids, I don't even assume I know exactly what my kids are going to do or what they want, and it has to be a constant process of discovery and learning about learning. I heard it once said that human beings can only mature and grow, even physically, in relation to others. We are created to be in relationship to others.
Yeah.
Babies will die if they are not looked at, touched, like they need more than just like food and shelter, And I think and it's a good thing to remember. We need other people to grow. And that's how God is going to form us through marriage and family life. So when you say like, what's the foundation of a good family? I think it's like Mike just said, looking at yourself and that process of discovery, always being curious. What's going on here between us? What's going on with our kids, and asking those questions. It's the greatest adventure. It's the greatest adventure of life.
I think that's powerful, though, in the sense that I think a lot of times, like you said, people are not curious, and then by
That's right.
default, I think they get afraid, and then they have these weird
Yes.
assumptions, or like you said, they miss out on their kids, they miss out on their spouse, or they get into weird habits, So I think that's a powerful thing. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, the I am the weak link. Right. So in the sense that it's an inside out job, though, right? In terms of that movement into a gift of self. Like, am I able to show up? Am I able to give of myself to my spouse or my kids?
Hmm.
So, well, with all of these things, like in the course of like everything you got going on with all of the kids, the grandkids, the wedding, the stuff you've done with the podcast, how do you keep everything together so that you can continue to minister to each other, your own personal spiritual life? I mean, are we going to be watching you guys on Dateline soon? I mean, like, what's going on? Like,
Gosh, I hope not.
Baby, you know what? If not for the grace of God, there go I.
yeah. Oh, just saying, like that's a lot of stuff that God is doing. But
Yeah.
what do you guys do to keep everything together like that?
Well, you
Well,
know,
first of all, are we keeping everything together?
I don't know. I don't know.
Wow,
Every day, it's worth grateful we show up. Okay, we're still here. We got this going on.
We are.
With all the struggles. I'll say this: just running a ministry, running this organization, this business together has been the most fruitful, the most joyful,
Yes.
the most growth oriented endeavor that we've been in, minus being parents together, right?
Yeah.
But it has challenged our marriage in ways that I wouldn't have thought, and our marriage is stronger for it. But it was
Not without
challenging,
struggle.
and I think the only way we're able to do what we do, I think this is true for everybody, is we put first things first. Looking at our three primary identities, starting, if you will, foundation year, we're a mom and dad. That's kind of our primary work before business, before
Right.
service to the community. We're a mom and a dad, our priority there. And then our marriage, that before we're a mom and a dad, we're a spouse, we're a husband, we're a wife. If you want to be a great parent, you need to be an amazing spouse. But then even before that, it's our nature as a son and daughter of God, that
Right.
beloved son, a beloved daughter of our Heavenly Father. And I cannot bring to this marriage what
Right.
she needs if I don't know that I am a beloved son,
Right.
and that I am called to true discipleship under his authority, under his leadership.
Mhm.
And out of that, I can lead in
Yeah.
our marriage, and I can give in our marriage. And if
Mhm.
those three things are in the right order, then it allows us the freedom to do other things. But if those things were off, nothing's happening. Nobody's happy. And it's headed for a, train wreck.
So a lot of times on our podcast, or when people ask us questions, Mike will, he gives the more theological, philosophical answer, and I'll give the practical answer. It's like, okay, step one, do this,
Yeah.
And it's
saying,
good.
not
You
practical?
need both. No, it's like both are really important. And we both can like swim in both, pools or whatever. But the first, when you ask that question, like, what do you guys do? One of the first things I thought of was habits that we have formed over the last 30 years within our marriage and how we relate to each other. And also even the time that we spend with each other. Like even when the kids were little, we really made sure there was not a day that went by that we were not having time to connect with each other without the children, just a time that we could like focus on each other. How are things going? That we can make sure that we had that habit of doing that. Now, of course, it's a lot easier now because we talk to each other all the time.
Too much, Dan, too much.
But that kind of transitioned to we need to have good boundaries when we have our date night, where we have boundaries of we're not allowed to talk about work because things very quickly devolve into a business meeting.
Early in our marriage, we would find that we had to say, hey, we're not going to talk about the kids tonight. Not that we don't talk about the kids ever, but there was a time where it was like, this is just us time, or big stuff, dreams and life and whatever. And now we have to say, we talk a lot on business, on our work. And
Which
we
we
have
love,
to say, which we love, and we're both very passionate about. So it's really, or like we could talk in the car once we're there.
That's Mike's rule. That's what we're gonna have.
Oh, okay. We gotta have rules though.
We do. We have rules. And the other thing, by the way, that when you're asked about marriage, that my second thought after the good habits of that spending time together is our community of support. To be honest with you, we really have, both of us are blessed with strong relationships with our parents, with our brothers and sisters who are very supportive and keep us accountable. And then in our community where we live in our local community, like people that we are with, like we have a couples group.
Life with.
We have a couples group we meet with once a month. We both, have spiritual directors that we meet with. We have mentors that we meet with. We know we cannot do this on our own.
And we know we can't do it all.
We know we can't.
And we're okay with that.
Right. And we need other people. And that is like when you said, like, are we're going to see you on date night someday, and I was like, what would keep us from killing each other, And it's really, we have people we can go to. Like we do. We have people that we can turn to and we can say, hey, we're really struggling in this area, or will you help us with this or whatever. I always feel like to whom much is given, much is required, and I know not a lot of people have supportive families or friends, and we have been blessed. I mean, we've been blessed. Like we don't choose our families, right?
Sure.
Both of us have really been blessed with great families. And so I think that, that's part of maybe why God's called us into this, because he's like, okay, guys, like I've given you these blessings. Now you can't just sit back and just coast into heaven,
Yeah.
You got to start working in the vineyard. So anyway, so those are the two things I would think of: good habits and good community.
Well, I think it's huge though. But I think like you said, at the core though, there's that knowledge of like what I need to, right? And the
Absolutely.
humility to like show up, right? And not, like you said, I can't do it on my own. And I think a lot of that self-reliance is like, I think that's a hard thing for people to recognize in their marriage and in their family. Like, I'm going to figure this out. As a guy, I think sometimes we can be like, well, I'm going to do this, or we're going to figure this out. And then you get into like, no, you're not. You're really going to struggle. This is the most, my dad used to say, marriage is going to be the most impossible relationship you'll ever be in, kid.
So true.
And like,
so true. That's awesome.
Cling to that cross real hard, right? So like, it's
wisdom.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
He's right about a lot of things and wrong about a lot of things. So.
Have you ever heard of the book, How to Stay Married?
I've heard of that book, but I have not read it.
It is, okay, so I read it, but
I did too.
It's, yes.
We
and
read it.
It's definitely worth reading. It talks about how impossible marriage is and the struggles, but it really emphasizes that what you just said, that it's a Stoneman story. It's a story of their marriage, and in the end, it all works out. Praise God. But he really emphasizes you can't do it on your own. Because the husband who's writing the story, he made it very clear that he needed other men. He needed other men. He needed accountability. He would have never done it on his own. They would have gotten divorced. The marriage would have fallen apart. Absolutely.
It's very raw, very authentic, a beautiful story.
Yeah.
But it was a story of pain, suffering, challenge, and how other people and a little bit of God thrown in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, but like you had said that too, like without like the community, you lose your identity. Like you lose like the support, but you also lose the identity. And I think that is a huge problem. Like I think one of the things you guys have offered is like you have a community now of people really that can find you, that whether they know that they meet you through listening or they listen to other people that have come on your show even. It's a great, what would we call it? Like the gift continues to grow, because now it's not just the 20 people that you fit in your house. It's going to be all these people that are connected. And that encourages a lot of people, because people may not meet people that have a marriage that is attractive. And I don't know if when I talked to you before, or if this has come up, is I ask people like, when do you find people that have attractive marriages? You should be
Mm.
close to those people
That's right.
because you need that. And how many times do we have? Because people can have a really good thing, but it doesn't mean they're going to be given the grace or be called to share that. So a lot of times I feel like we get cut off. Like we can't see like, well, this is a person's marriage. I really want what they have. And I think one of the things that God has done in the work that you guys have shared is like, I love the title of the podcast, The Messy Family, because that's what family life is. But there's an attractiveness in the effort to be holy. And like you said, the humility to realize I don't know everything. I need other people. And I think that but that's what people want. Because I think a lot of us, we really, in the world of reality TV, I don't know, maybe that's going by the wayside now. I don't watch a lot of TV, but the whole idea that we want authentic community, we want to find people that we can kind of both, like you said, look up to, but inspire us. And that's not necessarily someone we always find. And I think that, like you said, whether it's at the community level, in the parish or in the family, like we need that. Otherwise, I think sometimes marriage can be very discouraging for the average faithful person who's like, well, I signed up for this and, well, this is harder than I thought. And, we're going to keep doing this. Like, what's going to go on? Like, who do I talk to? Pre-Kane is over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
That's when we need
go.
intervention. Because
Yeah.
then that's really the truth, right? We end up doing marriage prep before they get married, which is wonderful and important. And they need to know what they're getting themselves into, at least broadly.
Yeah.
But you don't really need that until you're actually at the moment like, okay, crap, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And I didn't know these challenges, these differences, these contrary positions are going to come up, and then what do we do? I mean, that's why I'm glad that we could be here. Why you and Smuggling Hope? I mean, just having the opportunity to speak into the heart of people who are having authentic and real challenges, right?
Mhm.
Everybody goes through them. And one of the things I love about community and the things that I've enjoyed about men's group and the couples group we're in, you're not alone. You're not
That's
the
right.
only one who's feeling that. And even just knowing that, even just
You're
hearing
normal.
that makes a weight of it a little bit lighter. And I think that's what community does is it carries the weight together.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take it away, it doesn't take the pain away, but it says, hey, you're not supposed to do this alone, right? And that was from the beginning in Genesis, right? It is not good for man to be alone. And that's true for families. That's true for married couples, that they are not meant to do this alone. And whether that's
Mhm.
kind of virtual through podcasts and the communities that we build and, kind of gather people around together, whether it's in person, in your neighborhoods, your communities, your churches, or whether it's even, like we've done these getaways. And one of the things that kind of surprised us that we didn't plan is that when we got these married couples together, it actually started creating this sense of community, even if it was for, 4 days.
A long weekend. Yeah.
And they walked away, and then we had some older couples who were like, I've never had a couple this young that I could actually say was my friend. And the younger couple saying the same thing, like, this is beautiful. Outside of my parents, I don't really relate with older couples. And I feel like our
Mhm.
church, the world needs a intergenerational connectedness that we don't
Mm.
currently have. We too quickly end up in
Like
same age
striated.
stratified
Yeah.
age groups, and we need each other. We need community. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
something that I
actually,
just thought about
I was
then.
thinking about that too with the our Catholic couples getaways. One of the unexpected blessings was hearing some couples say, "I have never been with so many couples that share my values."
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
I was like blessed by that, but
unbelievable.
also like saddened by that, like, wow, you've never been with and it's about 50 couples, 40
Yeah.
to 40 to 60 couples, but they were just like, and they were young couples. So I hope that they do find community, but it made me realize, wow, how blessed we are personally
Yeah.
to have friends and to be around
Incredible.
people who share that. But then it was also so neat to hear the older couples at the end of the week, and we had like time for testimony. Some of the older couples got up and like pointed to these younger couples, and they were like, "You have no idea how inspiring you are. You have
Wow.
no idea how much we who have been married 35, 40 years are so encouraged that you guys are so young. You've been married for 3 years, 5 years, and you're taking time for your marriage now.
Yeah.
Wow, you're so amazing." It was so cool. Like, just
Yeah,
like,
it was.
yeah, it's the body of Christ is really beautiful. And the Lord gives us that for a reason, because we need each other to be inspired by.
Yeah, and we can't minister just to ourselves. I
Right.
think that's what people forget, and like I think Yeah, if we don't have the community, we lose kind of our humanity. You know, we don't
Mhm.
have like that. So I think that that's powerful. But like you said, the intergenerational stuff is like we'll do the old need the young, like the young need the old, right? And I think now because in our world specifically, like I feel like everything, like you said, is siloed off. Like you know, or I'll see a lot of times like people that are in their 30s or 40s and they're married and they want to cut their families out. They want more isolation.
Oh, I
And
know.
that's
It's so
very tragic where I don't know. I haven't figured out like what the causality is. Maybe you guys have figured that out, but I find that to be like a very tragic thing where there's this division
Mhm.
when there should be like again a movement into greater appreciation or gratitude, but it's very odd.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, agree,
no.
agree.
And I think some of it maybe people having their own lack of boundaries, like what Mike was saying before about his sonship and daughterhood, like
Yeah.
getting to the place, like we need to know who we are. And so we can be in a place and like stand in our sacred space and be seen. And then our families of origin can be there and we can take the blessings that take from them. Hey, thanks, mom and dad, for what you've given me. Maybe your parents don't share your values, but you can still have an appreciation there. And
Yeah.
and if you're not supported by your family, hey, it's okay. I know who I am before God. I'm confident of that. And I sometimes I wonder if people lack that confidence, and maybe they feel like they're on shaky ground or something. But
Sure.
I just remember hearing once from another really wise older Catholic couple who said, even is something to the effect of even if your parents are not, even if your parent you want to raise your family different than your parents raised you, even if they don't, maybe your parents don't support your values, they still have the wisdom of life. They still have
Mm,
wisdom and they still love you. And there's still something there that you can still learn from. And I think we have to have that humility, or realize that, like, hey, maybe they've been married 30 years. Maybe their marriage isn't great, but they know a lot about marriage. Just for good and the bad. Like they just do.
yeah.
And there has to be some kind of humility there. So anyway, I agree with you. It's sad,
It's a
but
troubling trend.
it is troubling.
Like, I think that that makes a lot of sense though, is the humility. And again, because you
Yeah.
can't really encounter people very easily if you have humility, right? Or if you have pride, I mean.
If
That's
you
right.
Because
lack
you see that,
sure.
like, that's what keeps I feel like that's what keeps, I think, men from men's groups. We were very blessed. We
Mm.
have a fraternist organization out in Buffalo where I am, and I am like you said, when you are around like these 70 couples or 60 couples when you do the getaways or the retreats, is like I see all these men with their sons, and I feel like they don't realize like that this is not a common thing, but how hard it is for a man to get out of his car and show up to be with
Yeah.
all these other men. And again, I think that it is a powerful thing, but I think that humility connects people. It allows people to encounter, and
Mhm.
that pride is just really hard to get stomped out.
And
Yeah.
not to go down too on this topic, but it also makes me wonder. There is something that I love about social media and technology that allows us to be selective of what we listen to, podcasts that we
Yeah.
tune into, but it also creates another level of stratification where I am choosing and
Mm,
self-selecting the community I'm going to be participating in, maybe online in such a way that I am disconnected from the community that I'm physically in,
Mm.
which will have people that are of different ages, of different perspectives. Just it's probably more diverse than who you might follow on social media.
yeah.
And that maybe leads people to thinking like I'm the only one, or because I'm not the only one, I
Yeah.
can stand up to my parents. I can push back on them, or, what have you, that it's like, oh, that's a toxic relationship for me. And I'm going to separate from my parents, like that
Yeah.
idea of that trend. And I think, again, that's why community allows us to passively be formed just by being in relationship with people who are different. Even if they share the same values, even if our parents aren't sharing those same values, there is still that level of respect. And we'll learn that by people who are similar to our parents or similar to other people who do share our values. Like, it'll help us see the fuller picture, I guess, when
And not feel so threatened.
when we're not
Mhm.
just always self-selecting,
Yeah.
that we kind of open ourselves up to, hey, I'm going to be present for the people who are in my parish, who are at my fraternus, who are maybe on this getaway experience or wherever,
Mhm.
but then it opens them up and gives them the ability to be in relationship with people that wouldn't naturally be there otherwise. And I think that that leads to growth.
Well, no, I think that you're right. Like, I think that, you get moved out of your comfort zone too. You have to grow up,
Yeah.
right? I think when, like you said, if you're stuck with the people at the same level all the time, then you get afraid of encountering the other, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, you're not the same as the people I listen to. You're not,
Yeah.
you don't, it's a dangerous thing.
Right.
Yeah.
What-
Right.
So double back though, so we're talking about like the getaways and stuff. So you've been doing, how long have you guys been doing the getaway stuff?
I think 3 years.
3 years, a little over 3 years. So yeah, I think we've finished off. We're in our fourth year, right? And
Exactly.
it was just one of those. So Catholic couples getaway. It is what it is, right? Or it is what it says to be, right? In that it's for Catholic couples and it's a time to get away.
Sure.
And it's something that we found as a, Alicia talked about habits early on. That was something, I don't know who shared that with us first, but it's something that we've tried to incorporate where we get away ideally once a year. And just the two of us get away from the kids, get away from the rest of life, just to reconnect as a couple. And we found so many young couples were like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make that work. And we just said, why don't we just do this? And it literally, it was, I don't say slapped together is probably the wrong term, but we just put it out there.
Kind of the
And,
first time.
Yeah.
and what happened is it sold out, and we were like, okay, there was and then we were on it, and we're like, well, this is a big deal. Like this was much more power. Like again, we're not that great. We don't know all the detail, but now having done it 4 or 5 times and seeing the fruit,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, wow,
Yeah.
this is a powerful way, a simple way for married couples to experience the joy of their marriage, rekindle the fire of
Yeah.
their love, be spiritually enriched without it being overly intense, right? We don't make it extremely hard. You'll walk away and feel rested and refreshed because we don't want you to go back into the busyness of life being tired. We want you to come back refreshed and renewed. So you'll get some spiritual, juices going, but it won't be like, oh my gosh, you were on a 40-day silent fasting retreat, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, actually, see, what we did is that we kind of like looked at what would we want.
it was all about us.
It was
That's
really
what's
all
all
about us.
about.
We're very selfish, actually.
But we brought other people in. So that's our unselfish part.
Yes.
We built it saying, what would we love?
Yes, we were
Good
like,
off.
okay, because we have found, and this was the comment that a lot of people tell us, is they'll say, you know what? We loved the fact that we loved the tools that you gave us and all of that. But what we really loved and what we really needed was just time to be together. They said that's what we really needed, just
Yeah.
time to relax and take a breath where we didn't have screaming kids or screaming phones or whatever stuff that had to be done. And we just really just
Focused in on
we needed time to focus on each other and space. That's the thing, is that the getaway gives couples space. I feel like that we've been on couples retreats where it's like boom, 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 boom. It's just like you're drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
And we do that
But
to other people sometimes when we give retreats. But the getaway, we were like, oh, we want to give them some things, but we just want them to not have to worry about anything except their relationship with each other and
Yeah.
just have fun together.
And again, thinking about ourselves, we wanted someone to take care of all the details.
Yes.
So like we're going to the Bahamas. It's an all-inclusive resort. It's a sandals resort, right?
It's amazing.
Shelf
Like-
stuff. Like whatever you want, it's there, right?
Right.
This isn't a Lenten retreat, okay?
When you get off the plane, we're going to pick you up and bring you to you don't have to look for a ride. You don't have to get an Uber. You don't have to pay for anything.
Once
We're
you
just
land,
all taken care of.
You are all taken care of.
That's right.
Everything is provided, and you don't have to stress about anything. And the only question is, what book might you bring when you sit on the beach?
Yeah.
But we have mornings that are dedicated to kind of a teaching or formation time,
And prayer.
and then we have mass and confession, spiritual direction. But it's available. It's not required. And then we
Right.
make sure every afternoon is entirely free, just to relax, whether it be sitting at the pool, going scuba diving,
Meeting other couples.
just playing games, doing whatever you want to do. And then we'll join again kind of for an evening of inspiration and prayer, but it's short. So you still have the rest of the evening even together. And that's kind of our pattern for the day, So it's a morning, all afternoon is yours. brief time in the evening, and then we have these beautiful occasions. Like we're going also, we just announced we're going to Austria, to Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a little bit longer just because there's
Because it's Europe.
it's Europe, right?
Because you're
You took a little while to get there. We wanna
Yeah.
make it a little fuller experience, but we're gonna have some European spa day, like, that we planned it. We're gonna be having these beautiful gardens and castles. We're gonna have
River
a
cruise.
river cruise, the
Mhm.
Danube River cruise, right?
Mhm.
With dinner and wine tasting, and then we're gonna have a guided tour of Austria, or Vienna. But all of them are really, you're gonna walk away feeling alive.
Yeah.
And again, with the priests we choose, they're like, I mean, seriously, I'm so happy the Holy Spirit's operative in our lives, because I don't fully appreciate that, how important that priest was. But every time couples are just like, I have never had a priest act like a spiritual father and
Yeah.
renew us and bless our marriage, renewing the sacrament, bringing us before the Eucharist in such a powerful way, and doing it. We've had couples who are like, my spouse isn't very religious,
Or my spouse isn't Catholic.
isn't Catholic at all. And they were like, and then we've had those non-Catholics and non-practicing saying, I felt so welcome. I felt
Yeah.
so engaged. And the spouses being like, this was a home run. I wanted them to experience Jesus in a powerful way. And so many of them brought their spouses, and some of them came with burdens. Some of them came with issues. Some of them
Definitely.
were just like, I wanted more. And they walk away being a little freer, a
Mm.
little bit more. Again, we gave them some tools in their marriage for some communication, for some dreaming together, to working on creating a little bit more of a united vision for their marriage and family life. But really, they walked away and said, my marriage and my faith are now up here, when they were just okay.
You know what?
before.
What is one of the greatest compliments I think that we've received a lot of compliments on about the getaways, but one that really struck me is that couple said a lot of times after a vacation or after a retreat, I'm either exhausted or I don't want to go back and I want to stay. And they said, we don't feel like that at all. After this getaway, we feel re-energized and ready to jump back into family life. We are
Wow.
excited about going home and being able to put into practice, and we have more energy now to go back home and love our kids. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah, that's
that's
what we
what
want.
we want. You
Yeah.
know, that's what we
Well,
want.
that's huge, though. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's a bunch of things there, though. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about. So this is so years ago there was a guy named Michael Schrag, and he wrote a little ebook called "What Do You Want Your Customers to Become?" Right, and he had this obsession. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
No.
He's kind of, I don't know what, I'm not going to get into like what I think he was up to, but I thought it was fascinating because like his big thing was when you meet with people, it's either going to be about transaction or it's going to be about transformation.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
you have to think about what you want the person to become. And that's hard for most people to think about, right? And so when you're inviting people into this experience, I think that there is, an ask, right? You're asking these people, these couples to become holy. Maybe that's the word that I'm coming up with, but there's an ask, right? Whether it's, like you said, this has been like a masterful improvisation with you and the Holy Spirit of, we're going to put this together. These people are going to show up. We have faith that this will work. We
Right.
have the desire that this will work. And God has blessed it. Like stuff has happened. People have been transformed. But I think that's like, again, there's an ask there, right? Like and the interesting thing, I guess, is like you guys understand like that it's important to invest in the marriage, right? And I think that for a lot of people, like they struggle with moving into this mindset of, even if it's like they feel bad that they're going to go out on a date with their husband or their wife. They feel bad to go out on an overnight. And there's reasons for that. Sometimes people are anxious. They have a new baby, whatever's going on. How do you, like, as we talk about this, like, how can people understand like the importance of, or how would you convey the importance of investing in your marriage in terms of just the way that you feed it?
So there's certain like phrases that I say, been saying on the podcast for years, 10 years we've been doing the podcast. One thing for parents to recognize is that even if your 2-year-old, your 3-year-old is screaming bloody murder when you walk out the door, or if your kids, when you're gone, they have a horrible time for the weekend, which will not happen. Well, probably will not happen. Kids, they're fine. But even if it was true, your children are not going to remember that. But you will remember that date night. You will remember that weekend for a long, long time. And it will enable you to come back and love that child more and be the better wife. Being a better wife means you are going to be a better mother. You can never be a better mom without being a better wife. It just does not work like that. It just doesn't. And same thing with being a dad. You can't say, oh, I'm a horrible husband, but I'm a great dad. I would say, no, sorry. Your kids won't think that because your kids instinctively know, somehow kids know that their very life depends on this. Their very life depends on your relationship, your marriage. And when you know how to make your kids feel secure and loved, it's loving your spouse. Loving your spouse. When your kids see you loving each other, then they do feel more secure. And then that love that you have for them overflows. The love you have for your spouse overflows to your children. And you can love your children then more freely and more unconditionally, because we cannot be loving our kids and then getting feedback. I feel better when my kids are happy. I want my kids to be happy because then I feel good about myself. That's not right. Like that's not what children are for. They're not for that. You need to know who you are in your identity as a daughter and son of God and in your spousal relationship, because that's how you're receiving God's love, through your spouse. And from that place, you love your children freely. You love your children and you serve your children, not for what your kids are going to give to you, but because this is the calling that you have. This is the responsibility, the stewardship that God has given you. And the only way you can work on your marriage is if you dedicate time to it. You have to take time, and time, again, without the kids. Like, you just need to get away without them. And we've had lots and lots of witnesses of couples who maybe our getaway was the first time they were alone together for an extended period of time without their children. And it's absolutely refreshing.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, your relationships are built with the material of time. And
That's
it's like,
right.
if you say you value your marriage,
Right.
show me your schedule, show how much time you put in, because we all put a lot of time into our work, right? Even keeping up the house, but on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, and on an annual basis, how much time are you putting in to this relationship? Because the kids, and I'll just use that as a our focus, right? For those who are parents who are listening, it's like the kids came forth from your love, and they need to be nurtured by that love. And that's sacramentally true, right? Like, meaning you renew this sacrament. That is the grace you get to be a parent, comes from the sacrament of matrimony. When we
Says it right there
invest
in the
that,
catechism.
and
We're
it's
not making this up.
and it's like anything in our prayer life. It's like, if I say I am Catholic, but I don't go to church on a weekly basis, I'm actually not a practicing Catholic. That means that I am not living according to what it means to be Catholic. If I am a married person and I can't look at my weekly schedule and say, I have carved out and prioritized my marriage with a date night, I'm sorry, I don't believe you're actually being a faithful marriage partner. I'm going to be harsh. I'm going to say that's the standard. Look at your week and say where you're at. And I'm going to challenge particularly men, because I think this is part of our job. Our job, and the way that I believe God wants men to lead, is reminding your wife that she's first your bride before she's mommy. And that means, and wives, let your husbands pursue you.
Husband you. Like, honestly, you got to let them husband you and
I
take
don't know if
care
that's
of
what we
you.
mean by husbandry.
I always think,
but that really is, I believe, a challenge for us as men, because we need to have a goal, we need to have a focus, and we need to be able to remind her, because she's getting clawed at, sought after as mommy all day long, and whether they're working out of the home or not, they're always mommy, 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 mommy. Even when the kids get older, it's just the problems or the issues get bigger sometimes, right? You need that. And the sooner you can have that habit. And again, I come from a divorced family. So my parents, I know that they've worked through their stuff, and I'm in good relationship, and they're in good relationship with each other. But there is a prioritization that if you really want to love your kids, you've got to prioritize this marriage, because I didn't have that fixed shore point growing up. And the statistics are substantial of the impact of divorce. And divorce doesn't happen when someone says they want a divorce. It happened years before,
right.
when we allow coldness and mediocrity and just status quo to settle in. And the only thing we need to do is we need to provide real resistance to a culture of mediocre marriages that will end in failure. Only way to do it is be proactive and make it a habit of saying we're going on a weekly date. I'll say we as working together, we needed a weekly date. Before we were kind of like monthly.
And we
I
were
would say,
very slipshod with date nights. I'll be honest with you.
yeah.
Like we really were. We were the worst.
Well, we've gone through phases. There are phases where we were good and phases where we were bad. But when, 6 years ago, when we started this work, again, we had a pretty good marriage. We had a very solid marriage. But because we were working so intensely, we were working together, we needed a weekly date night, and it has transformed us. And
We
then
just really had to get to the point where we're
it's
like,
on our schedule. We don't make other commitments. And then if we miss a week, it's not a big deal because we got the next week.
right.
But once we know it and we feel, I just pray that we'll always be at a place where we feel the pinch when we are falling down on our habits. And I feel that way with prayer too. It's like, if I miss my prayer time, then mass isn't as fruitful subjectively for me, right? And it's like, I want to always feel a little bit of that loss and a little bit of that pain in our spousal relationship and our spiritual
Keep us
habits as well.
motivated to move,
Yeah. I don't know if that gives a good framework for it, but
Yeah, I think it's a power. I think there's a lot of different things there, but I think that for the most part, like you said, it is the movement to prioritize the marriage, right?
Yes.
And it's kind of like, if you're not, it's kind of almost like a fire, right? If you don't tend to it, it kind of like
It will.
goes out, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
sometimes like you need more fuel, and sometimes it's going pretty hot, and sometimes, like, you know what I mean, and you have to be intentional about it.
Yes.
I do think like that. Yeah, I think that people, it goes back to what I think you said earlier, Alicia, that people don't think that they're worthy. Like, somehow I'm not worthy of this. It's like, I've been trying to express to people that I think a lot of people, they think they have to be important in order to be loved, when in truth, they're just loved. And if they started, like you said, with like the beloved son or the beloved daughter, they could be free to do other things. And so maybe a lot of even this movement is, it shows people when they go on a getaway or they go and they spend time on a date, and they prioritize this, that they're actually the hands of love in that moment. Prove to themselves, okay, I am. Because I think that that's one of the things this heals, is by the end of it, is like, I've experienced God through these couples or through my spouse on date night, but I also made this happen because I know I'm lovable. But you have to do it. Otherwise, I think you could get tempted out of it and believe, well, I'm not lovable. I have to do this, or I'm not a good enough wife, or I'm not a good enough husband. And I think it's kind of I think that it's a very important thing. But I think that there's a lot of people that are going to struggle at times to realize, well, or they think that it's terrible to go away from their kids. I know a lot of people that they're like, oh, I can't go away. That's selfish. I don't think it's selfish at all. Like,
No.
yeah, and
would it be selfish to go to mass?
Yeah.
Is it selfish to take time for prayer?
Is it selfish to take a holy hour for adoration by yourself?
Is it selfish to have a good diet and exercise? Because that's what we're talking about. This is the engine that keeps our family going forward.
Yep.
If we're not putting fuel in that tank, which is your getaway, then we're falling apart, right? And that's not good for our kids.
Like, I mean, I'm just going to put words in Mike's mouth here. I'm just going to speak for him for a second. But I mean, in his childhood, would he have rathered his parents have left him and spended time with each other to save him from the pain of divorce? And I'm sure, absolutely, absolutely. And it's like that. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Or even marriages that are difficult and contentious. I think that kids would rather have, at the end of the day, they would rather have their parents loving each other and having that witness for each other. And that can't start when your kids are 10 years old. That has to start early, early on. It got to the point with us, though, I have to say, when we would leave the house, I'd come back because our kids would always be fighting and stuff together. And we would go out and, we left like when the kids were old enough to watch each other. And I remember coming home once and saying, so did you guys like fight when we were gone? And the oldest two looked at each other. They're like, no, we didn't fight at all. We only fight when you're around. And I was like, I don't know what I think about that. But really, sometimes they would just get along better when we weren't there.
That's
So, yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, that's what when I've gone away, when me and my wife have gone away, like, our kids, they've always enjoyed their own little adventures.
That's right.
And I think but it goes back to what you said, is like, they want to see you and your spouse love each other.
Yes.
And again, like, that is, I think, a piece that people, again, I think there's a lot of social traps where people have, like, there's the disorganization where it's, the kids must come before everybody, before myself, before
Mm,
my time in prayer. But like it goes back to the thing you said in the beginning, where the right things are not in the right order. And I think that this is a great opportunity though for people to reorder things. And again, like to recognize, well, do I actually prioritize my marriage? Have I really
right.
ordered myself towards God?
That's right.
Do I really believe I'm lovable?
Right.
Because again, if I don't believe I'm lovable, good luck with my spouse convincing me of that.
That's
That's going
right.
to be an uphill battle.
You
Do you know what I
can't
mean?
receive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, it's a great
And
point.
so I think like these getaways, the retreats, but if people can't even do that, just to get away,
100%.
like whether it's like an hour or two or whatever it is in the week,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's at home or out, because everybody's got a different kind of budget, right? To
Yep.
prioritize this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah,
just on that note, I know
yeah,
we're probably hitting up
yeah,
our time here shortly, but like I've just talked to people who have hard, crazy schedules. You know, a truck
yeah,
driver who just drives through the
Yep.
night, and they had to change, and they do dates during the day, during the week. Their kids are at school, he is home, and they have
Mm-hmm.
a date lunch,
Right.
right?
yeah.
And I'm like, get creative. Don't make excuses.
Right.
Just hunker down and say, when can we do this? And let's put
Right.
it on the calendar on a regular basis. If it's not weekly, it ought to be more than once a month, though. And then annually. I mean, again, we need it. Your marriage needs it. Your kids will thank you. Again, we have five of our kids are launched on in life, right? And seeing the faith alive in them, seeing the way that they chose not only their spouse, but how they're invested in their marriage. It's like, this is all worth it. Those sacrifices, everything you can do now to impart to your kids good, awesome habits is going to come from you putting first things first. So
Mm-hmm.
saying no to other stuff is going to bear such great fruit to you. One of my favorite quotes is that you need to say yes to marriage and family life requires you to say no to 1,000 other good things, right?
Yeah.
And we have to make those choices, and it really works, and it will bear
Yeah.
great fruit in your life. Sorry.
And I actually also thought of another great motivation is I have known, so I grew up in a large family and I had a very good experience. But I have known plenty of people who grew up in large families and did not have a good experience. They grew up in a family and they said, and then when they became adults, they said, I never want to have that many kids because my mom was always ragged and worn. She never had time for herself. I think the best witness of marriage and family life we can give, you want your kids to look at you and say, wow, when you're married, you get to go out with dad and get dressed up. Oh, when you're married, you get to go away together and have fun. Man, I want to grow up and get married. I want to do that with my husband,
It's
right?
true.
Because you think about it, what do you want your daughter? When
This
your
is the
daughter,
best marriage prep you can
it's
ever give your
marriage
kids
prep.
is right here.
Exactly. Like, do you want your daughter to grow up and get married and never have any alone time with her spouse and never get a chance to go and have a wonderful time with her spouse? Is that what you want for her? Because guess what? That's the example
But
you're
you're setting that
giving
up.
them. You're setting that up as opposed to kids who see, wow, mom and dad, that's the kind of marriage I want to have. And it's not that we've done everything perfectly. We definitely argued in front of our kids and made lots of mistakes, but our kids have gotten married young. And I think part of it, and young meaning under 25, and like, I think they looked and they said, yeah, marriage is great. Marriage is fun. Marriage is awesome. You get to be with your best friend and hang out and do stuff. Yeah, that's what I want to do. So it's that witness that we give to our children. Pre-Cana
Authentically.
starts now. Your children's pre-Cana is every day when they are watching your marriage. That is your kid's pre-Cana. It's not some course that they're going to take at a parish. It's your marriage and how you treat each other and the witness that you give of your lives. Pre-Cana lasts from the kids are born until they get married.
But that's powerful though, in the sense that people need to realize, like, are they seeing the joy in the marriage? Do they find it attractive? Or
Totally.
is this like a drag or an obligation? And I think, like you said, if your kids are willing, and people will say like, oh, well, my kids are getting married young. Well, then you did something right in some ways, because they have courage and they have an attraction to something that right now, the world doesn't have a lot of hope. And a lot of people, it's funny, my brother lived overseas for a while in France, and nobody there has kids apparently. So, and like, so they thought he was a freak because he had kids in Paris, and they're like, oh yeah, this is weird. You should have a dog. Nothing against the French people that listen to the show, but
Oh
like, it's
my.
like, but it's not like you said, like it's not, again, it has to do with the fruitfulness of it, but there is joy, right? There is,
Yes.
and I think that one of the things that these like date nights produce and the getaway produces is you're finding joy. You're literally
Mm.
finding it. And I think a lot of times I struggle with this is like, well, because joy is a funny thing in like psychological world because they'll make it up to be a lot of things. But I think it is like St. John says, it's a choice. But I think when I interpret it like you're finding it, I think it's a lot easier. So you can
Mm.
find the joy when you're in the Bahamas. You can find the joy if you
Yes.
go to the local Applebee's, in the afternoon when you're
Yeah.
whatever it is. You
Yes.
can find it in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna have coffee early with your spouse.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think that it's a huge thing to like you said, put things in perspective, put the things in the right order, and so that you can be able to minister to yourself appropriately, so you can show up to your spouse,
Mm.
so that you're not like coming from a weak place when you have to be present to your kids because
Yeah.
the kids can't fulfill these. I think that's the other thing is I'm listening to you is like, well, then I'm free to share my life with my kids, to minister to them or to be present to them in an appropriate way
Yes.
because there's no pressure on the kids to do anything other than to be the kid, right? In
That's
some
right.
regards, they're not,
Absolutely.
so in a lot of ways, I think it's powerfully healthy.
Mhm.
And I didn't necessarily even think about it like that in terms of,
Mm.
date night is that it's a powerful way to maintain the emotional health and relationships with your own kids
Yeah.
because they
Absolutely.
know they're not the center of the world and they shouldn't, you know what I mean?
That's
And,
right.
'cause that would be not a good situation. So, so thank you guys. Talking to you is always a blessing. So thank you for your time today with everything. Now before you guys head off to whatever you got next, how can people get in touch with you? And especially like I'm going to put the links for the getaways on the show notes. So if people want to find that, they're going to be able to get access
Thank
to that.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, and but so if people want your resources or to get in on the podcast if they have not linked up yet, you want to tell them how they can do that?
Yeah. But please use the link that Dan put there. I think there'll be a special discount for those who sign up through that. We'll make that possible for anybody who joins us for the Catholic Couples Getaway. But then at messyfamilyproject.org, we have a ton of free resources, downloads, whether it be working on communication in your marriage, whether it be kind of developing a united vision for your family or dealing with technology. We've got a lot of resources there. And our podcast, Messy Family Podcast, is available, whether it be on Apple or Google or wherever you find your podcast, as well as on our website.
And
YouTube.
I just wanted to mention too about the cost of the getaway. Do have like scholarships, money set aside, because we know for some young couples, money is tight. And we really do want this to be available to couples. And so definitely use Dan's link, for sure. But then we're totally open for people reaching out to us and saying, hey, I really want to do this, and we need some help. And we really want to make that happen. So not for people to not be afraid to reach out to us if this is something they really feel convicted about doing for their marriage. And we will help you out as much as we can, for sure.
Yeah. And God will figure it out.
That's
You know what I mean?
exactly right.
So thank you guys for everything, and bless you in your work. So, and thank you guys for joining us on this episode, and hopefully we'll get you guys back on again, sometime in the future.
We always love talking to you, Dan. Thanks for the great work you're doing. Keep smuggling that
Absolutely.
hope, man.
Thank you for all you do. I love pointing people to your resources. Really. Thanks for your great work.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.